What is up, everyone? It's Quinn here, and in today's video, I'm going to be talking about 5 sleepers that I think you guys should be looking out for in your Dynasty rookie drafts. These are players that are pretty consistently going outside the first 2 rounds, trying to find 5 players that are going in like the round 3, round 4 area. If you enjoy the video, hit that like button and subscribe. Any questions, comments, drop them down below. But the first player I'm going to start off here is going to be Bhayshul Tuten, running back out of Virginia Tech. Now, he spent his first 2 collegiate seasons at North Carolina A&T. Didn't do a ton in his first season, really kind of broke out in year 2, where he rushed for almost 1,400 yards, caught 30 passes for 333 receiving yards, and then scored 17 total touchdowns. He took that season, transferred to Virginia Tech, and really just balled out in his last 2 years. As a junior, rushed for 875 yards, 25 receptions for 227 yards, 12 total touchdowns. And then as a senior, rushed for over 1,150 yards and scored 17 total touchdowns. He is an elite athlete at the running back position, had a relative athletic score of a 9.56. 5'9", 206. So not huge, but also not like a super tiny running back where you're going to have to like really cap their workload. Probably not a 3-down guy, but I think someone that could be in like that 15 to 17 opportunities per game range. And then he ran a 4.3 240 and then just absolutely killed the broad and the vertical jump, put up great numbers in both of those spots. He's someone who, despite not being a huge running back, is very effective after contact. In his career, he had a 4.18 yards after contact per attempt. In 2024, he had a 4.4 yards after contact per attempt, which was 6th in the 2025 running back class. He forces missed tackles at a very high rate. 54% of his rush yards in his senior season came on 15-plus yard carries. That's something you want to see guys being able to, rip off big plays on a consistent basis. And then he also has some pass catching upside with 87 career receptions. I think the one big red flag here is his fumbling issues. He didn't fumble a single time in his first 2 seasons. Then he transfers to Virginia Tech and has 9 total fumbles in the last 2 seasons. So not great, but I still think overall he's a very strong running back profile. And I think he does have some upside to potentially sneak into like the back end of round 3. If he doesn't go day 2, I expect him to go very early on in day 3. And then you're kind of just hoping that he, hits in the landing spot department. Then we're going to have another running back who I think is a nice sleeper in DJ Giddens out of Kansas State. I think he's just an all-around really solid running back prospect. Played all 3 of his seasons at Kansas State. In his true freshman season, he was the running back 2 playing behind Deuce Vaughn. Still had like an efficient 600 yards from scrimmage, was efficient on the ground and through the air, scored 6 touchdowns. And then once Deuce Vaughn went to the NFL, he was just the clear running back 1 in 2023 and 2024. Rushed for over 1,200 yards in both of those seasons, scored 21 total touchdowns, combined for 50 receptions and 581 receiving yards. He has great measurables. He's 6 foot tall, 220 pounds, ran a 4.43 40, which was a really solid time. And similar to Tuten, I think he has some potential to go like back end of round 3, if not, early day 3 option. And now we're going to shift over to the tight end position where I have Mason Taylor out of LSU. And I think the 2 biggest things we're looking at here at the tight end position are athleticism and draft capital. It is very rare to see kind of an unathletic tight end, obviously relative to the position, have a lot of success in the NFL and have a lot of success in fantasy. So Mason Taylor comes in, tests well, has an 8.88 relative athletic score. And then the other hurdle he's, I think going to clear heading into the NFL draft is his draft capital. At this point, it seems like he is very likely to be a round 2 pick. When you're looking at the tight end position, you've obviously got the top 2 in Tyler Warren and Colston Loveland. Those are both going to be round 1 guys, probably both going in the top 20. And then when you're looking at like the tight end 3, tight end 4, I think the 2 guys that, are consistently going in that range are Mason Taylor and Elijah Arroyo. And I think at this point, Taylor does have a little bit more juice to be the tight end 3 off the board. And then when you're looking at draft capital, you might be wondering, like, why does that matter so much? When we're looking back to 2018, so 2018 through 2024, we've had 6 tight ends get drafted in the first round. 67% of them, or like 4 out of 6, have hit a top 12 season. 2 of them have hit top 6 seasons, and then also 2 of them have hit top 3 seasons. When we're looking at round 2, you have 13 players, 46% of them hit a top 12 season, that's in points per game, 23% hit a top 6 season, and then 15 hit a top 3 season. But you can see those numbers just completely tank once you're getting outside the second round. You've got round 3, 10% have had a top 12 season in points per game, then 8% in round 4, and then just nothing across the board in rounds 5 through 7. So if he can sneak in there to round 2, there's some interesting landing spots. I think Chargers would be awesome. I think he's a very, very interesting option for fantasy. He has the NFL pedigree. His dad, Jason Taylor, is a Hall of Famer. He was a 3-year producer at LSU. Impressive hands. In 2024, he had 55 receptions, only 1 drop. I think he's great on outbreaking routes and kind of navigating himself near the sideline. I think he's a much better like horizontal route runner than someone who's going to win down the field vertically. He is somewhat limited after the catch, not super elusive, not going to go out there and, force a bunch of tackles and, get huge gains after the catch. I also think he can improve as a red zone target. 6 touchdowns in 3 seasons isn't ideal. He's not like a great go up and get it kind of guy. He can make contested catch situations, but those are, typically on like crossers or out routes. Red zone, like jump ball, he didn't test in the broad or vertical jump, which I do think is kind of telling. So it's not like he's a perfect, flawless prospect, but he produced. He's a solid athlete. The draft capital is likely going to be there. Someone who I think could be a very viable pick in like the 2-3 turn area, assuming he does get that draft capital. And I think even better if he gets like the, very coveted Charger landing spot at the tight end position. Then we're going to go back to my third running back in this video, where we have Damien Martinez. And I talked about how the other guys had potential to go day 2. I'd be pretty surprised if Martinez went in the first 3 rounds. We're probably looking at a day 3 guy. And when we're looking at running backs going in that range, they're all going to be somewhat flawed, right? It's going to be pretty tough to find just like an amazing 3-down back that's just magically not getting drafted in the first 3 rounds. And so you're looking at like specific skill sets, whether that's someone who you think has a lot of receiving upside or a guy like Damien Martinez, who I think has the skill set to be an early down running back right away in the NFL with upside to potentially hit double-digit touchdowns. Like, I think that's his role. You have a 3rd down back, you pair him with him, and then you let Martinez take the 1st and 2nd downs, short yardage situation, and then the goal line stuff. He started off his college career at Oregon State, transferred for his 3rd and final season in 2024 to Miami. He produced in all 3 seasons, rushed for at least 980 yards in all 3, was 6 yards per carry or better in all 3 of those seasons also. Solid size, 5'11 and a half, 217 pounds. We're in a 4.51 40, which for his size, is a very, very solid time. And then in 2024, he was 3rd in this class in yards after contact per attempt. So with that frame, he's a physical runner and, can make plays after contact. So that's my 3rd sleeper running back here. And then the final player here is going to be Tyler Shough. And I think he might have the most extreme disconnect from how the NFL views him versus like the fantasy dynasty community. Because when you're looking at rookie mock drafts, you are seeing guys like Ewers, Howard, Dylan Gabriel consistently go before Tyler Shough. And I think this is almost like those were kind of the names that were producing at a high level in college. Those were the names that people were expecting, to be in the mix, potential like round 3 guys. But I think we kind of have to adjust here, and none of those guys are getting the same draft hype as a guy like Tyler Shough. I mean, in some of these mock drafts, like he's not even going in the first 4 rounds, and I think he has a legit chance to get drafted somewhere in the 2nd to a team that has a real need at the quarterback position. So I think why Tyler Shough isn't getting a ton of hype from the general public is he is a very, very old prospect. He gets like the, Brandon Weeden jokes where he's like 25 and a half years old. But he's in an interesting spot because it's not like he, had some weird thing coming out of high school where he was on like a mission or something and wasn't playing and has just like been able to dominate at an older age. When you look at his overall career trajectory, like he's kind of just had some bad luck. So he starts off at Oregon where he, I believe, redshirted his freshman year and then was just like a depth quarterback in year 2. And so those were Justin Herbert's last 2 seasons at Oregon. So he was a good prospect coming in, but you're obviously not going to start over Justin Herbert. So he's like a backup quarterback the first 2 seasons. Then his 3rd year at Oregon, he starts all 7 games in the 2022 COVID season, ends up transferring to Texas Tech after that year. He's the starter in 2021, and he plays 4 games before he ends up breaking his collarbone, out for the rest of the year. Then in 2022, he's the opening day starter again. He re-broke his collarbone in that first game. I think also suffered a shoulder injury. Then he comes back, made 5 total starts that season. Then in 2023, he's once again the opening day starter at Texas Tech. He has 4 starts before he ends up suffering a broken fibula. Then he transfers to Louisville, which is where he played this last year, and he stayed healthy, had a very, very solid season, only like the second year where he was the starter and was able to play it out, and the first full year because 2020, was the shortened COVID season where they only played 7 games. And so you look at his, overall pedigree here where he was a solid prospect coming out of high school. He was a 4-star, and he just never really got a legit shot to be the guy because he kind of was the guy and then just dealt with a million different injuries. But he has the physical tools. He's 6'5", 220 pounds. Not someone who's going to put up a ton of rushing production, but he's a very mobile quarterback, a 4'6", 340. I have to imagine all the injuries, breaking the leg, the collarbone stuff, like that's probably really limited his rushing upside in terms of like actually wanting to go out there and get hit. And then also from the team perspective, like you just want to protect him. But he ran a 4'6", 340, which is a great time. Kind of reminds me of Michael Penix from last year, where I think athletically, I think he had a great 40 time, but he just doesn't have the tendency to run. And he was another guy where I think he had 3-4 full seasons just get shut down by injuries. You look at some of his metrics from this past season, he has a very low 1.8% turnover worthy play rate. He was pretty solid under pressure in terms of not taking sacks, only a 9.3% pressure to sack rate, which is very strong. Believe that was 3rd in his class and 1st amongst the quarterbacks that are actually considered to be legit prospects. He has a good arm, but he's in this weird spot where typically you have a quarterback coming in at 25, you're expecting them to be ready to go right away, very polished. I think he's kind of still a developmental guy because you just look at the overall number of games he started, and it's not even comparing to some of the other top guys in this class. Even, a younger prospect who played 4 years and a guy like Shedeur Sanders. Sanders has way more experience than Tyler Shough, even though he's going to be, 3 years older than him. So I'm not saying that, Tyler Shough is some sort of amazing, can't miss prospect, and I'm guaranteeing that he's going to be the guy. But typically at the quarterback position, you want to follow the draft capital. And if the NFL is in on him, I think that also means they're not super concerned about the medical stuff, which is a plus. But if he goes round 2, there are a lot of QB needy teams that might be passing on a guy in round 1, early round 1, that could be interested in him in the second round. So he has met or is scheduled to meet with the Browns, Raiders, Saints, Giants, Steelers, Jets, Colts, and the Seahawks. I mean, some of those teams have zero answer at quarterback right now. Others, maybe have a short-term solution, don't know about the long-term situation. And so if he's someone that I think could go round 2, which I do think is definitely in the cards, I am going to be willing to follow the draft capital. And there's no guarantee that if you go round 2, you're going to pan out or you're even going to get the opportunity to be the starter. Like we saw, Trask with the Bucks, right? He went late round 2. He was, I guess, supposed to be the developmental guy behind Brady. He's never gotten on the field, but you've also had, a Will Levis going to a situation where he could play and he didn't pan out, but he at least got the opportunity. And sometimes that's all you need with some of these quarterbacks. So Tyler Shough, I think the fact that he's not even going in some 4th rounds is wild because I do expect the draft capital to be there. And I think there's probably going to be some adjustment, but I also think people aren't going to come all the way around because some people just, are going to be stuck in their priors. So those are going to be my 5 sleepers. Would love to hear your thoughts. Let me, hear them down below. But thank you all for stopping by, and I'll see you in the next one.